What is up, YouTube? This is your boy Red Chaos One welcoming you to the Red Chaos One channel, obviously, the home of the web fiction pope of YouTube, who clearly has too much time on his hands. And I am here to present you with a review on a book that I've spoken about before. And the book is called Overtake The Astral, Searching for a Good Life in Another World. Now, I spoke about this book in my video about adaptations, about web novels that I think should be adapted. And I'll have a link for that in the description below if you want to check out that video. The multiple other books that I recommended. So, yeah, also the link to this book will also be there down below. I do every time with my reviews. The book will be linked to the sites where you can be found. You can read it and you can give the author your opinion and your some love. And speaking of giving authors some love, I am also a web fiction writer, and I have a book called Phantom Ddraig, which is a high fantasy action story that will also be in linked below in the descriptions below and below the link to this book that I am reviewing. And I would be very grateful if you could check it out as well. Give me your opinion. Yeah, that I would very much appreciate. So this book that we're discussing can be found both on RoyalRoad and Wattpad, and it was written by an author named Venny123, who I must thank for requesting this review. If you too want a book review, remember that all you have to do is ask. You can do it on this channel, or you can check the links to the web fiction platforms that I can be found on. They're on my book links. You can go there and you can ask me there. And it doesn't even just have to be a web fiction review, a web story review, I mean, or web novel review. It can be anything. Anything you want me to do, you can just ask. I'll do it. I've said it before, and a lot of my videos have been requests, so I do those a lot. Now let's get into the book by going through its synopsis. So, Mikami Shizu, a 28-year-old woman, suddenly lost her life after being killed in a bank robbery. She passed away with regrets that are originated from her past and view of life. However, the next thing she knew is that she woke up as a baby in a noble household of another world. Believing that this is her second chance, she strives to live a better life this time around. This is another world story of a soul's endeavor in claiming the good life that she failed to achieve before, as well as her journey in finding out the true meaning of a good life that she wishes from the bottom of her heart. So yes, this is an Isekai, or if you want, you can call it a portal fiction story. Now, I'm not the biggest Isekai fan out there. And a lot of this comes because I have been burnt out by a lot of books in the genre which tend to be the same derivative power fantasy stuff. And it's not like I have something against power fantasies. It's just that there isn't that much variety from what I've seen. And I know every genre suffers from this fantasy, action. There are lots of clones other than the good stuff. But even though I'm not the biggest Isekai fan, I know that it would be unfair for me to write off the entire genre without. I can't write off the entire genre because in every genre they're gonna be the great stuff and the bad stuff, and this book is one of the good stuff. So yeah, I was glad to read this book, and I'm glad to review it, and it rises above a lot of the other normal isekai stories, isekai web fiction stories, or even published isekai books out there. And yeah, it's frankly well written. So when we get into the book, the first chapter, we started with our protagonist, and her name is Mikami Shizu. She's a Japanese woman, and she had kind of a bad life, to be honest. Like a broken home, but a loving mother, a horrible father who loved pachinko machines too much. And in our first chapter, she meets the end of her life at what I could just probably describe as cosmically ironic circumstances. And all of this happens in the first chapter. So, first chapter, we're introduced to her and she gets killed. And I know you're probably thinking, that might be a bit problematic. I don't even properly know the character so that you'd be interested in the stakes. Because web novel chapters tend to be shorter than normal book chapters. So you might be worried that not a lot of time has been put in the character, but I have to praise the author here because they managed to make you know who this character is in that short time that they are introduced. And they do such a great job that you get a full picture of who Mikami is as a person in just one chapter that she's introduced and killed, and you want to see more of her because she's a fully fleshed out individual. And I know a lot of authors struggle with this. Me too. I also struggle with this. Managing to introduce a character that short of a time, and just getting people to be that interested in them. So this is what I'm gonna praise the author for. Now, Mikami is reborn in an alternate universe called Desparia as a newborn baby to the family known as the Grice noble family. They're a noble family, and she is rechristened in this new world as Sion Else Grice. So don't be confused if I start, because I'm gonna start referring to her as Xian now, because that's a reborn name and the one that's used. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be referring to her as now. And poor Xian can't catch a break in this new life. Like she has a father who's an absolute a-hole, a brother who's a pig, and a siscon who the fantasy FBI should really look into. So now let's start talking about the book. So one of the first things that I'm gonna say is this book is mature. Like, this is the disclaimer for those who maybe aren't into dark stuff, who aren't into reading dark fiction, and maybe to those who are looking for some dark fiction out there. This book is dark and goes into some really mature themes. Like chapter 1 up to 4 might be a bit lighthearted, but like chapter 5 stuff goes dark and in an unexpected way. Like, if you've read enough isekai books, you probably think you know where the story is going, but chapter 5 just it takes your expectations, folds them into a paper, and slaps you with them across the face. So yeah, that. And it's well written. It's well written, and I mean, it has few errors that you will have trouble with, and it'll just be a fluid read. So I guarantee you that. So dark themes, a fluid read, and now let me get to my praises of the book. So my first praise has to be world building because I am a fantasy nerd, and I'm a big fan of world building. And I'm gonna have to praise Venya123 on wonderfully building the world of Desparia. Like, from the continents to the peoples, you can see that a lot of love and care was put into the creation of this world. You the information of this world is given in such a good way of exposition that you will want to know more, and it won't be overwhelming. Like, this is something that I have struggled with as a writer of fantasy as well, managing to put your exposition of your world to the reader without overwhelming them. So I'm gonna have to thank Vinyo 123 on this one. And if you are a fantasy fan who enjoys world building, I recommend this book. It has a well written world, it has a well written magic system that you will love, and the history, the lore, the way the people interact with each other in this book, in this universe of Desperia, is amazing. It feels like a fully fledged, lived in world. And you will see this in the first few chapters because the story goes to some places where you weren't expecting it, not just in mature themes, but in locations, so you get a better view of the world, and you can see that Vineyard 123 put a lot of love into this world. So I'm gonna have to praise them on that. Another thing is the characters. So any story, no matter how good or bad, is only as strong as its characters to me. I can make the argument that if the story is that good, the characters don't matter. So, but just to me, I think what draws a lot of people to books are the characters. So, in this scenario, Vineyard 123 is great at writing characters of every kind, like different race, different gender, different morality. The characters feel like unique people. And they're not one dimensional, they're multi-dimensional. Like our hero Shion. Shion has both a good side and a bad side. Like she feels like a person because this book is written from the first person perspective. So you spend a lot of time in her head. So she feels like a person. She has times when she does some stuff or says some stuff that you wouldn't agree with as a person, but she still does the right thing. She's a good hero. She's not your stereotypical generic fantasy or generic web fiction hero. She has layers, and like she's part of my top 20 favorite characters in all of fiction right now. So yeah, you should read this. She's if you're interested in multi-dimensional characters, this book is for you. Shion, even the world itself. Like there's some messed up stuff that happens in the world, like slavery, war, mass murder, and of course these mature elements are taken care of in a well-written, mature manner by Vineyard 123. Another thing that I must praise them on because mature themes aren't that easy to do well. You can easily make mistakes with them because you're going too much on their side. So this is my praise for this book. It handles mature themes in a well balanced manner. And yeah, that's mainly all I have had to say about this book. So like if I was giving it a rating out of 10, it's clearly a 9 out of 10. It's a great book. I heavily recommend it for anyone who's interested in a dark isekai story with great world building that handles its mature themes in a great way. This is the one I recommend for you. And like I said, if you want to check it out, links in the description below. And yeah, so if you have anything you want me to do in future, you remember just leave the request in the chat, leave the request in the comments below. If you like the video, leave a like and please subscribe. It really helps the channel. And this has been Red Chaos One signing off.